All right. Buckle up, everybody, because we're going deep, and I mean deep, into a true classic today.
Sounds fun. I'm ready.
We're talking about Pitfall.
Ah, a classic. I can already tell this is going to be a good one.
You know the one. The game that somehow crammed an entire jungle's worth of adventure onto a cartridge smaller than, like, a stick of gum.
And yet, it still managed to capture the imaginations of a generation. It's remarkable, really.
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today.
What made this game such a phenomenon? And not just the gameplay, but like the whole cultural impact.
Right. So we're going full archaeological dig here, unearthing all the details, the tech, the legacy.
I'm talking about the making of stories, the sequels, and how Pitfall still echoes in games today, even if you've never set foot in its pixelated jungle.
It's like spelunking, but for video game history.
I like that.
Okay, so to set the stage, rewind with me to 1982.
The golden age of arcade games.
Pac-Man fever was still going strong.
And Donkey Kong was busy, flinging barrels at that plucky plumber.
And then, boom! Pitfall explodes onto the scene.
On the Atari 2600, no less.
Which, let's be real, back then, that was cutting-edge technology.
Absolutely. And speaking of cutting edge,
Yeah.
or maybe,
Yeah.
sprinting edge is a better term.
Yeah.
Because we got to talk about the main man himself, Pitfall Harry.
Legendary adventurer.
Seriously, think about it. Back then, most game characters were, like what, just a few pixels on the screen?
Flicks and blobs, basically.
Exactly. But Pitfall Harry, he was different. He had this real sense of movement, of purpose. You could tell he was on a mission just by the way he ran.
Yeah, he had the determined stride, even if it was just a bunch of pixels moving across the screen. You just knew he meant business.
It's wild, right? They managed to give a little sprite, like actual personality.
Totally. And his mission, should you choose to accept it, was to navigate this sprawling jungle.
And collect 32 treasures.
All while dodging crocodiles, scorpions, rolling logs.
Don't forget the quicksand.
Oh man, the quicksand. It still haunts my dreams. And you had a ticking clock, right?
20 minutes, if memory serves. Talk about pressure.
Every second counted. And this was before you could just, save your game and come back later, you know?
Oh, absolutely. This is it. Once that timer hit 0, game over, man. Back to the beginning.
Talk about high stakes. But you know what I think is really fascinating? All this. This entire experience was packed into a ridiculously tiny amount of space.
I'm talking 4 kilobytes of memory, total.
Wait, 4 kilobytes? Seriously?
That's less storage space than, like, a single emoji.
Get out of here. No way.
It's mind-blowing. Imagine trying to fit a whole jungle, with all its dangers and secrets, into something smaller than a text message.
It's like those tiny houses people build, but for video games. How did they even...
It really makes you appreciate the ingenuity of the developers back then. They were like digital magicians, squeezing every last drop of performance out of those old systems.
I'm picturing David Crane, the creator, hunched over his computer, which was probably the size of a refrigerator back then, right?
Probably, yeah.
But anyway, I picture him like he's this digital Michelangelo painstakingly carving out this whole world, pixel by pixel.
And they didn't just create a world. They created a feeling.
Yeah.
That sense of exploration, of danger lurking around every corner. It was, and still is, incredibly immersive.
And addictive. I mean, come on, you gotta love that classic Atari soundtrack, too. Talk about resourcefulness, right? But hold on a sec, because we can't gloss over this. This whole thing, it blew up on home consoles.
This wasn't some arcade craze,
This was different.
This was like Pitfall Harry was a guest in your living room.
Why?
And that was huge back then.
Because video games, they were still kind of new in a lot of homes.
Oh, yeah, they were finding their footing for sure.
And here comes Pitfall, bringing the whole jungle adventure right to your TV screen.
Exactly.
So suddenly, boom, everyone's got a joystick in their hand, dodging crocodiles from the comfort of their own couch.
It helped make gaming a family affair, something you could share with friends.
Totally. Like, I remember my cousins coming over, and it was an instant Pitfall party.
And it wasn't just the game itself, right? We got to talk about those Activision Explorers Club patches.
Oh, man, the patches. Talk about street cred.
Right. You sent in a photo of your high score.
Proof.
Boom. You got a patch in the mail. You were officially an explorer.
Instant legend status.
Think about it. Yeah. This was way before online leaderboards and achievements and all of that.
Oh, yeah. Forget social media bragging rights.
That patch.
Yeah.
That was your badge of honor. It was like, yeah, I conquered those jungles. I faced those hazards. I am a Pitfall master.
And you earned it.
Exactly. But okay, back to the game itself. We've got to talk sequels. Because Pitfall's success, it wasn't a one-hit wonder. It spawned an entire franchise.
Oh, yeah. Pitfall 2 Lost Caverns.
A classic in its own right.
Absolutely.
Took the adventure underground, literally.
They added caverns, new creatures, and they even had music this time.
Oh, the music. It totally changed the vibe.
Totally. You're exploring these vast underground tunnels, and there's this eerie soundtrack just kind of setting the mood.
It was brilliant. They cranked up the immersion factor big time.
For sure. And it wasn't just about adding a catchy tune, right? They made some major changes to the gameplay, too. Like, remember that ticking clock?
Gone.
Yes.
They gave you this whole interconnected world to explore at your own pace.
Which honestly kind of blew my mind when I was a kid. It's like, wait, I don't have to beat the game in 20 minutes.
Right. It was a total game changer.
But they kept that core Pitfall feel. The exploration, the hazards, they just expanded on it in a really smart way.
Exactly. And the sequels didn't stop there. Pitfall. It was like the little game engine that could.
It went on to conquer arcades, home computers.
NES, Super Nintendo.
Even made the jump to 3D.
That's what I'm saying. It was this constant evolution.
I love that.
Always pushing the boundaries of what a Pitfall game could be.
It's a legacy that spans decades. Really makes you think, huh?
It really does. You've got this game, almost like 40-plus years old at this point, and it's still influencing games today.
It's wild. Talk about staying power, right?
It's not just about the nostalgia factor either. It's like Pitfall tapped into something fundamental about what makes games fun.
That's what I'm so curious about. Like, you've explored gaming history inside and out. So if we gave you a time-traveling magnifying glass, where would you go looking for Pitfall's DNA in modern games?
Oh, man, that's a great question. Well, I think one of the most obvious examples is the entire platforming genre, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can draw a direct line from Pitfall to games like, I don't know, Super Mario Bros., Sonic the Hedgehog.
For sure, for sure. Those side-scrolling classics owe a lot to Pitfall.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Right. But it goes even deeper than that. Like, look at a game like Spelunky, for example.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
You've got that same sense of exploration, that tension of not knowing what's around the next corner, those traps that make you yell out loud when you stumble into them.
And believe me, I've yelled at Spelunky a few.
Yeah.
Maybe more than a few times.
Exactly. It's that perfect blend of challenge and reward that Pitfall absolutely nailed.
Totally. You're constantly on edge, but in a good way.
Right. And then there's, the whole risk versus reward element.
Yeah.
Pitfall had that in spades, and it's something you see in tons of modern games, too.
Oh, absolutely. Like, do I go for that treasure chest even though it's surrounded by, 5 crocodiles and a swarm of bats, or do I play it safe?
Exactly. Those are the decisions that keep you coming back for more,
No doubt. Okay, but this has been blowing my mind, so I gotta ask, what about games today? Have we as an industry actually surpassed Pitfall in terms of innovation?
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, on the one hand, games today are light years beyond what was possible back in 1982, right? We're talking about photorealistic graphics, massive open worlds, online multiplayer experiences. It's mind-boggling.
No argument there. It's a completely different universe.
Right. But, and here's the thing, Pitfall, it wasn't about the technology, really. It was about the ingenuity, the way it took these incredibly limited tools and created something magical.
It's like they squeezed every last drop of potential out of that 4 kilobytes of memory.
Exactly. And in a way, that's even more impressive than, having all the processing power and memory in the world,
So you're saying that even with all our fancy graphics and processing power, there's still something to be said for that old school ingenuity.
Absolutely. It's about those aha moments, those times when a game surprises you with its cleverness, its ability to make you feel something, even with the simplest of means.
I love that. It's like, it's not about the size of your jungle, it's how you swing through it.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. So to wrap things up here, for anyone listening who maybe hasn't experienced the joy of dodging a pixelated crocodile,
or outrunning a rolling log,
what's the one thing you want them to take away from our deep dive into Pitfall?
I think it's that even the simplest games can have a lasting impact. Pitfall proved that you don't need fancy graphics or $1 million budget to create something truly special. All you need is a good idea, a passion for pushing boundaries, and maybe a really good understanding of how to make a sprite run really, really fast.
And with that image of Pitfall Harry sprinting off into the digital sunset, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into one of gaming's most enduring classics.